let's talk about Chinooks and Williwaws. Chinooks and Williwaws are kind of two types of similar, but I guess opposite weather phenomena. Chinooks are a phenomenon quite often seen in a bunch of areas of Canada and Alaska, specifically very common in areas of Alberta. Now, there's actually two different types of Chinooks, the coastal ones and the interior ones. We'll be talking more about the interior ones, but coastal Chinooks are kind of constant winds blowing in from the ocean around the coast of, again, mainly Canada, like British Columbia. But interior Chinooks are a very important phenomenon, especially in Alberta areas. They are a westerly wind, meaning blowing in from the west, and they are a very rare warm wind. Now, the term Chinook comes from the Chinook people, an indigenous group found around the Columbia River, and originally it was just used to refer to the coastal Chinooks, but is now used to refer to both. Now, the interior Chinooks are something that happens during winter, and they're a very, very unseasonably warm wind that sweeps in and raises temperatures dramatically, often causing a ridiculous amount of snowmelt. The interior Chinooks also produce a very, very interesting cloud formation called the Chinook Arch, which is basically up here, this very large, typically quite colorful, during the sunset cloud formation. Now, sunsets in Alberta typically are very dramatic, very colorful, some of the best sunsets in Canada, even probably North America, and are especially noticeable during a Chinook, which produces these big Chinook arch clouds. Now, the causes of the Chinooks itself is when a wind comes in from the coast and moves towards the east. Now, when moving towards the east over British Columbia towards Alberta, it has to go up and over the Rocky Mountains. That causes quite a lot of precipitation, and when it descends from off the Rockies, it is very dry and very warm because it has lost all of its moisture. So the one side of the Rockies is getting relentlessly rained and snowed on, whereas the other side is getting a nice, warming, and very dry wind. This causes a usually mid-winter, early spring thaw that causes so much of the snow to melt, but it doesn't last long because usually the Chinook finishes and then a whole lot of snow and rain and cold winter weather comes right back in. Now, Williwaws are basically the exact opposite of that. Whereas a Chinook is a warm incoming wind from the sea that is very dry, a Chinook is a very, very cold wind going towards the sea or the ocean or otherwise the coast. It's typically seen up north more around the Straits of Magellan and Greenland and all of that, and is typically caused by a lot of cold, dense air at the top of a mountain being forced downward, causing very, very high winds, severe temperatures, and a lot of cold. Williwaws are classified as a katabatic wind, meaning basically, like I said, a high-density cold air being forced downwards at high speeds and very cold temperatures. Whereas Chinooks are usually welcomed because it has a warming of temperatures from the very cold Alberta winters, if you know you know, and Williwaws cause very, very cold temperatures and high winds and are usually not at all even a little bit fun. Williwaws are typically a lot shorter and more severe than Chinooks as well, typically happening at night and lasting from a few hours to up to about a day, whereas Chinooks typically last for at least a day, sometimes even more, up to a week or so. Now, while Chinooks and Williwaws both have very different causes and effects, they are somewhat similar and are both very interesting weather phenomena.